Eastern traditions, you could say, are all about practicing for death. That's what yoga is. It's preparing for death. It's not morbid and it doesn't turn you into someone who's brooding about death all the time. It actually has the opposite effect because in practicing and preparing for death, you gain great appreciation for life. I have this saying, if you're not training your body mind, the world's training it for you. The results will speak for itself.
Meet Dino. He's sitting on the living room sofa in the middle of a workday. The TV is on, but he's not even watching. He took the day off, not because he's sick, but because he feels worn thin. He needed to take a break. But rather than feeling relieved, he feels guilty. Guilty that his team of 8 are at the office dealing with everything that's on their plate without him. And he feels ashamed that he's not there. Dino is a treasury manager. And when leadership recently decided that they need to do more with less, it became really difficult. Headcount got cut, pressure increases. The inbox is never clean. Messages come in and they're never quick enough to respond. And his team gets frustrated, even with him, because he doesn't respond fast enough. And he gets it. Everyone's drowning. He sees it on their face. He hears it in their tone, and it kills him. At home, Dino has a 1-year-old. He's been married for 2 years. These are supposed to be the good years, but he doesn't feel like he's present with his family. He's put on weight. He hasn't worked out in months. He used to wake up early and meditate or journal, things like that, but now he doesn't do any of it. And what used to be a habit on the weekends where he'd have a drink or two has become a way for him to escape every single night. He's eating too much. He's drinking more than he knows he should. And he knows it's not okay. He knows that things need to change. What he really wants is to have the strength to be able to deal with this pressure and to lead his people through what is a tough season without falling apart. Today, I'm speaking with Mark Devine, retired Navy SEAL commander, best-selling author, and founder of Unbeatable Mind and SEALFIT. Mark has trained leaders at Nike, Boeing, and Harvard, where he combines elite military leadership with work in mindfulness, mental toughness, and breath work. And I'm excited to hear how Mark would help someone like Dino rebuild from the inside out, to lead better, to manage stress, and to show up fully for the people who are looking to him to lead. My name is Jay Abbasi, and welcome to Unstuck. Real people, real stories, real solutions. While the details are changed to protect anonymity, what you just heard is based on a true story of challenges that come up in the real world. And we discuss how to navigate these environments with practical tips to help you get unstuck and build a more fulfilling, impactful, and balanced life and career. So Mark, I mentioned to you before we started recording that I'm really interested to learn about your experience in learning Eastern philosophy and studying it. And I have a huge passion for it myself. So tell me the story of how you got introduced to Eastern philosophy and how it helped you.
Sure. I was 21 years old, actually, and living in New York City, um, working to become a CPA consultant type person. And I was an athlete in college, and so I wanted to keep my athletic training up, but I was looking for something a little bit more multidimensional. And I had a college roommate who took up Shotokan karate at Colgate, where I went to my undergrad, and I watched him transform over the 4 years that he trained and got his black belt. And when he graduated, he went off to Japan to continue his karate studies and to teach English. And I was really impressed because I went through 4 years of college and I swam competitively. I joined a fraternity, I academics, a lot of beer, etc. But I didn't really, I didn't see or experience any transformation like I saw with Dave, from like this insecure kind of jerk freshman year to really mature, confident, and humble person. So, anyways, that stuck with me. And when I got to New York, I was thinking, I wonder what that if that experience would it be something for me. And so, when the teacher's ready or the student's ready, the teacher appears. I stumbled into the one of the most incredible karate organizations on the planet called World Sado Karate, Way of Sincerity, founded by a guy named Tadashi Nakamura, still alive today, who was a master. Well, it just turns out he's also a Zen master, and so we would meditate before and after every class, every physical training class. But he also had a Zen class on Thursday nights, and he let me join that as a white belt. It was very small. I mean, he had hundreds and hundreds of students in New York, over 100,000, no, 300,000 worldwide. Like, this is a big organization, 10 years into its life. But meditation in 1985 was something very fringy, right? And so even in the context of this Japanese martial art, there were only 8 or 10 black belts who were into it, were doing it. So I joined as a white belt. He let me join, and I started to have, it was difficult at first, but there was a process and a path, right? I had a teacher who was telling me, do this, do that, and if you struggle here, then try this, and if whatever. And then we used to have little Dharma talks afterwards, or chalkboard talks, and I was just like smitten. And so I started to read about Zen, and I started to kind of like go down the path, even trying to teach myself Japanese, right? With the old books that they had. And I kept studying, kept training, and I began to have like really powerful outcomes, right? Shifting in my mind and my perception and my awareness. And it led me from this path that I was on of, heading down the staid path of becoming a corporate guy, making lots of money, the American dream, climbing the corporate ladder, to suddenly seeing that that story wasn't my story, and that I was, meditation led me to uncover kind of a deeper calling to be a warrior. And when I started to investigate, right, what that would look like, that's when the SEALs kind of revealed to me, because I was never like a military guy, and I didn't come out of college thinking I'm going to go in the military. And nobody who knew what the SEALs were in 1985, 86, 87. They were a completely secret organization. But I had had this experience on my meditation bench that I was meant to be a warrior. And as soon as that happened, and I took it seriously, then synchronicity played its part, and I was shown something about the SEALs that obviously piqued my interest. So, anyways,
Mm.
the net result of my introduction to Eastern principles through martial art, Zen, and the martial arts was a complete transformation of my mind and my identity and sense of self, to where I went from, November of '89, I earned my MBA, CPA, and my first degree black belt. And then I turned my back on it all, put them all on a shelf. And because I was off to the Navy, because I had earned a slot at SEAL training as an officer. And so I went, complete 180 degree from corporation, climbing that ladder, to being a special operations elite warrior. Anyway, so as you can imagine, the experience was so profound. I wanted to continue my training. So the SEALs had a lot of warrior training, and then I became a hand-to-hand combat instructor in something called SCARS, Special Combat Aggressive Reactionary System, which is based on Sansu Kung Fu. So I learned a whole another style or way of really engaging with body mind movement, body breath mind movement. And then I got back into a karate style similar to Sado called Goju. I earned a black belt there. And then I got into ninjutsu, which was really on the edge, esoteric stuff. And was right in the cusp of getting my black belt in ninjutsu when the instructor had to shut the school down. I actually kept it going myself for a while, but with some, to help him out, but that didn't last. But around that time, I also started to gain an interest in the Indian, not just China. And I dabbled also in Tai Chi and Kung Fu, and I was a Qigong. But then my interest was drawn toward the Indian traditions, right, of yoga. I found the book Autobiography of Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, and that blew my mind wide open, right?
Yeah.
And so then I joined the Self Realization Fellowship, did their lessons on that, and then read everything I could find from both Tibetan Buddhism as well as yoga, the yoga tradition, spiritual, teachings and whatnot. Um, Ended up going deep into yoga. I got about 1,000 hours of teacher certification training, and through all this, I was concocting a business and an idea that I wanted to develop future warriors, and that ended up expressing itself initially as SEALFIT. And I built SEALFIT in the mid 2006 to prepare special operators, future special operators, for their demanding training that they're going to go through, as well as to be more complete, holistic warriors on the battlefield.
Mm.
And the beginning of that program was a 30-day live-in academy where I brought the students, to my a training center I built here in Encinitas, California, where I live, and they would live with us for 30 days, and they'd sleep there, we'd feed them, and then they'd train from 4 or 5 in the morning to 8 or 10 at night, and sometimes around the clock. And the graduation ceremony after 30 days or a graduation exercise was 50 hours of nonstop training, no sleep, modeled after
Wow.
modeled after the SEALs Hell Week. We had some extraordinary success with that. So 90% of the guys that we trained for the SEALs would made it through SEALs. And that's in contrast to the average, 90% go and fail, right?
Yeah.
So there was something about what we were doing, but because we were teaching them these technologies which have been around for thousands of years, but I had to like simplify and convey them through a Western lens. And that was probably one of my gifts. I was able to, not only did I have a long history of experience with these different techniques, such as the breath control and the visualization and meditation and mindfulness and concentration and focusing techniques and intuition development. So I learned them from all these various traditions, and I saw the similarities and kind of what was bullshit and what was the real juice. And then I called it stripping the foo out of the kung fu. I just boiled it
I
down
like
to its
that.
essential nature and renamed it something. Because like when I started teaching like let's take yoga for instance. Imagine me teaching yoga to a bunch of SEAL candidates in 2006, right? It didn't go so well. A lot of them were just like, rolling their eyes, this foofy stuff. And a lot of them actually said, we can't do this. It's against my religion. I mean, there's such a distrust and misunderstanding of what yoga was. So I built a program I just called integrated movement, right? And I integrated asana with functional fitness, with breath work, with meditation, with visualization. And I built it into our hardcore training workouts, right? So, you imagine a bunch of guys like just pipe hitters, doing like deadlifts and CrossFit wads and, runs with weight vests on and rucksacks
Yeah.
and while simultaneously they're doing box breathing with their eyes closed and they're visualizing themselves going through the workout, just like visualizing your mission. And we're practicing kind of mindful movement, right? So like mindful walking, what's that? Mindful kettlebell swinging. Um, Teaching them awareness through things like I would call it the fox walk, where you can only walk one, move your foot one step in a minute. And
Wow.
yeah, and you have to like go slow everything down, slow your mind down, slow your breathing down, soften your gaze, and move so slow and so silently. I got this from the Apache Scout tradition, and that was to develop intuition and sensitivity, right, and awareness. So
Mm.
it was so cool, and the training ended up being really effective.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
think the things that we currently see in today's world, I think people are a little bit more open to it, but there is still some of that resistance that I even see, Mark, right? And I would, you mentioned that you would be at those in those lessons, and you would hear a dharma talk, and you would hear a lesson. Like, was there one that from those early days when you were first getting into Eastern philosophy and Zen, and listening to those dharma talks, was there anything that you still remember to this day? Something that was really powerful, a lesson that you still impart, like like maybe the one that you feel comes up for you the most?
Yeah, there are several, but probably the one that is germane to our conversation today, and including Dino, is at the end of the our meditation sessions. He would take out the chalkboard, literally an old white piece of chalk squeaking on the blackboard. You don't see those very often anymore. And he would write the kanji character, the Japanese kanji, and then underneath he would write the saying, what it meant. And as he wrote what it meant, I saw he wrote one day, one lifetime, one day, one lifetime. And the gist of it, there's a couple nuances here. The gist of it is from the warrior perspective, right? Um, every day could be your last, right? You don't know, right? And I have like 30 to 40 teammates that they had their last day in uniform, right? In combat, or, in a parachute jump or something. And and so and that's true for everybody though, right? It's not just a warrior, it's just a warrior. You put yourself in those positions where it may be more likely to happen because of the risk. But we live in a world where, nothing's guaranteed, and the body is, susceptible to death. And so the warrior, whether you're a warrior in uniform or just consider yourself a warrior, and I think everyone's got warrior, you know, archetypal energy in them. The warrior in you has to take this seriously. Like, this could be, what if this was the last day? And if that were a possibility, which it is, then what are you going to do about it? And the
Mm.
answer isn't, go out in a bacchanalian and feast, right? The answer is more like, pay attention to the most important thing, right? And the most important things are going to be like, maybe my relationships, right? And also maybe it's, this could be my last day if I'm not paying attention and if I don't take care of my body. And so, like, for me, even if it wasn't going to be the last day, I would still, right, get up and do my training to make sure that I'm so aware, right, that maybe I can prevent it, or at least I'm awake and aware if it's when it happens, right? So,
Yeah.
it's all about developing the discernment to know how important it is to make this day your best day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think there's a way of looking at death where it's actually something that could be motivating.
Sure.
It's rather than it being something that's, oh, I'm pushing off, it's not going to happen to me. You're saying, if I'm hearing you right, Mark, it's let that be something that you do bring to your mind that then fuels you into action.
Right. And Eastern traditions, you could say, are all about practicing for death. That's what yoga is. It's preparing for death. Um, but that has it's not morbid, and it doesn't turn you into, someone who's brooding about death all the time. It actually has the opposite effect, because in practicing and preparing for death, you gain great appreciation for life.
Yeah.
And too often people, especially in Western cultures, they just kind of push off the idea, and they bury it and the fear of it, and they run away from it, right? And they mask over, the anxiety about it with drugs and alcohol and distraction. And so they're numbing and muting and turning the volume button down on their life by, running away from death. It's counterintuitive, right? So the more you lean into it and you stop fearing death, the more you're able to really live fully present in the moment, and to bring your whole self into the day.
Yeah.
And you also see, that this idea of one day, one lifetime, right, is really a admonition to be present, because, we learn through meditation that your mind is always bouncing between past and future, right? goes into the past, it dredges up some memory, it drags that memory into the present moment and projects it into the future, right? And then it kind of bounces back and does the same thing, but it rarely ever is present. And so we go through our days living either yesterday or tomorrow, but not today. And yet today is the only day you have. Today is the day because yesterday's gone and tomorrow's a hope for an imaginary thing, right? And the SEALs
Yeah.
did a really good job of reminding us that because you go, first day you run into the SEAL grinder for basic underwater demolition SEAL training. There's a huge sign that says the only easy day was yesterday, and
Mm.
that's to get us to be like, oh yeah, yeah, we kicked ass yesterday. We had a really good day yesterday. And I'm still here, and a lot of people quit. So what? That was yesterday. What are you
Yeah.
gonna do today to earn that trident? What are you gonna do today, right? And don't think about tomorrow either, right? Today. And so you gotta stay very present in SEAL training or else you'll get overwhelmed with the
Yeah.
chaos and the emotionality and, just the totality of that experience is intense. You gotta stay really present.
Yeah. You've had the life experience, Mark, where you've experienced it through things like meditation, so mentally, emotionally, and then you've experienced it physically in the training that you've done. And now, of course, I know that this is a big part of what you do in your mission and helping others. So when you consider, okay, the average person who maybe they aren't so much like, I want to train to be a Navy SEAL. However, they want to ignite that warrior in them. How does one go about beginning that kind of training for themselves in, let's say, a normal, or I don't want to say normal, but like in their day to day, Mark?
Sure. Well, first they have to choose that, right? And in order to choose, you got to decide what you're not going to do and not going to be. Decide means to cut off, right, options. So to choose like a warrior path, we've had a lot of people come to us at SEALFIT and our Unbeatable Mind, sister program, and they chose it because they were tired of um, mediocrity, maybe in their own lives or around them. They were inspired by the ethos of the SEALs and the message I had about the potential that you're capable of 20 times more than you think you are. And so those who came, right, they chose it and they killed off the other options. Said, no, I'm not gonna stay in mediocrity or in weakness. I really want this. So you already you have to have a growth mindset and you have to have the willingness to go down that path. And if you don't have that willingness, then maybe it's not for you because what we then help you with is to get comfortable being uncomfortable and to bring the challenge to you instead of the wait for the challenge to show up by life's, circumstances. And so, and it's done in a crawl, walk, run manner, just like we used to teach, shooting in the SEALs or parachute jumping. And we don't, just strap a parachute on and throw you out of a plane at 40,000 feet first time. You know what I mean? Like you do we used to go through Army airborne training and pack 3 days of training into 3 weeks, um, and, it's slow, methodical, repeating the basics over and over. So we do the similar thing. It's like, okay, you want to develop strength and you need to develop stamina. You need to develop durability and resilience and mental toughness. And these things take time to build, right? And so we have them develop a training plan. And the training plan, though, we develop is not just like, it's not a workout plan, it's a whole person development plan.
Mm.
And we include 5 dimensions, 5 domains, and we call them the 5 mountains: physical, mental, emotional, intuitional, and spiritual. And we don't use the term spiritual, we use kokoro, which is a Japanese warrior term that means merging your heart, mind, and your actions, or whole mind, or integration. So, and we know that everyone's got to start where they're at, and everyone's got to have a uniquely individualized plan because everyone's different. Everyone's got different body types, different ages, you know, different stories, injuries, whatnot, capacities. And so if someone wants to go hardcore to the SEAL fit path, then we have prescribed. We do have prescriptions, but even with those prescribed workouts, there's a lot of variability and adaptability.
Mm.
But for people who are like, well, I can't do that, the hardcore military theme thing, then it really is your choice, you know. But the point is, the reason we have physical first and the physical, mental, emotional, intuitional, spiritual, physical mountain comes first is because it's through the physical body that you train your mind.
Mm.
Meaning you can't, your mind and your body are not separate. So if you think you're training your mind and you're leaving your body behind and it's overweight and it's, you know, it's anxious and ill health or whatever it is, then you're not able to train the mind because of the stress, the anxiety, the hyper arousal and the discomfort that you're going to feel when you try to sit in stillness and focus your mind and do the deeper work. So that's one of our kind of insights is training the body and getting healthy is almost a prerequisite to doing the mental work. And oh, by the way, has extraordinary benefits for a lot of the things that are ailing you, like depression, moods, swings, right? Optimism, right? Getting hormonal balance, and all sorts of things come back into balance just by training the body, which leads you to eating better and sleeping better and breathing better. And then through the movements that we prescribe or that you take on, because we're asking you to do some somatic movement, movements from like yoga asana and tai chi or qigong, or even just mindful movement using kettlebells and whatnot. You begin similar to the martial arts. You're beginning to train awareness and concentration and getting your mind more focused. So all of that, the process of getting your body healthy, back into homeostatic balance, bleeding off the stress, activating your parasympathetic nervous system, getting out of hyperarousal, attention control and arousal control, focusing on the right thing and being able to focus on it for a longer period of time, all of that has extraordinary mental benefits. And I still consider it part of the physical mountain.
Yeah, and for our listeners, I mean, you can just go to the evidence within your own life to confirm this. I mean, who has a great workout or goes out for a run or goes for a hike or whatever and then feels worse because of it? Right?
Said no one
Like,
ever, right? Unless they got
right.
bit by a snake or something like that.
Right, right. And it's so interesting the way you frame that, Mark, because I don't think that people really connect those dots the way you do. I think that people think physical body is physical. Like I work out to lose weight or because I want to look good. And then for my mind and my emotions, there's something different if I'm dealing
Right.
with work pressure or work stress. How you just frame that is no, you're thinking about it wrong. It's integrated. You have to get your physical body more fit in order to be able to more effectively manage stress, high pressure, anxiety, and so on.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and also your brain is part of your body last time I checked. So by training and getting your body healthy, then your brain is going to be healthier. It's going to, information can be flowing better. You're going to have less anxiety or the experience of anxiety, which is like a hyper aroused brain, where you're spinning up at gamma, Um, you're going to be able to drop into that, high alpha, low beta state, which is, beneficial, if not an outcome of meditative practices. And like I said, mood issues, which are really hormonal, because your hormones kind of come back into balance, and you have less cortisol flowing through your system, and you're sleeping better, and you have the combination of better sleep and better movement leads to the feeling of being more optimistic and confident, right? So there's a lot of things that affect your subjective experience just from the physical training. And when I mean physical training, I mean daily, consistent movement, right? Not just exercise. Could be walking, could be swimming. Um, I mean, of course, that's exercise. I meant not just going to the gym, right?
Right,
I
right.
don't go to the gym anymore, right? Because it takes a lot of time and there's a lot of other energy there. But wherever you go, there's your gym. It's your body in the outdoors. Start there.
Yeah. Right. Right, yeah, you don't need the big gym membership, you don't need the
Heck no.
physical trainer, right?
No,
There's so
and
many
you don't
ways.
need to
Yeah,
pump the pig, right? Like, I don't lift weights in any traditional sense like you would expect in the gym. I've got some kettlebells and, I do have a barbell that I use for bench press once a week because I do like the bench press, but I don't actually use it for anything else. I used to do power cleans and stuff, but a pull-up bar, kettlebell, a yoga mat, right, which I can do enormous number of exercises with that. Wherever I go, I've got my burpee. That's an exercise that travels.
yeah, of
You know what I
course.
mean?
I mean,
So
yeah,
you don't need much, right? You just
yeah.
need to move every day.
It reminds me of this one person I worked with, Mark, a while ago, where he was like, "Oh, Jay, I just don't have the time. I don't have the time to go to the gym. My
Right.
kids at work and all this kind of stuff." And I said, "Well, do you have time to do push-ups?"
Mhm.
He's like, "Well, I guess I could squeeze in push-ups
Right.
between meetings." I said, "Well, why don't you do that?" And
Yeah.
he just created a routine where he would do push-ups and sit-ups and things like you were just saying, where he doesn't need anything. And he started to feel better. His
Yeah.
energy started to change.
Totally.
He said it was amazing how this
Yeah.
one little adjustment, and it didn't mean he had to go out to the gym for an hour every time. He just started to
So
add some
what if
movement
you
into his day.
did,
Yeah.
5 times a day, 5 minutes? That's 25 minutes of training. You know what? I only train well, I do 20 minutes of yoga and 20 minutes, roughly 20 to 30 of a, functional, high intensity thing. Um, but when I'm busy, I do what you say. I'll do 100 squats here and 50 push-ups there, and 25 to 50 burpees there, and I'll just like do them throughout the day. And by the end of the day, you've gotten a complete workout, and you actually feel really good because
Yeah.
you space it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and you
You
ride that
could you
energy
could set up
throughout the
it. You
day.
can also have it be fun, right? Like this is one that is not new, but put up a pull-up bar in your house, and every time you pass under it, do as many pull-ups as you can. 3, 5, 10, whatever. Just do a set of pull-ups.
Yeah.
But you'll be
Yeah.
surprised at how many times you pass underneath that pull-up bar. And
Yeah.
suddenly you're gonna be getting really strong with pull-ups. Or here's another
Yeah.
one, every time you go to the restroom, you know, do 50 squats and then do your
Yeah.
business, whatever that is. Do 50 squats,
I
right? So now if you
yeah.
use the restroom 4 times a day, 5 times a day, you're getting 150 squats in.
Yeah, yeah. I had a system with a client of mine. He works in a hospital, and like every time he got to past his office door, he said, yeah, the system was he had to go in and do some sort of exercise.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
because he go to the emergency room, but he hit his office door and he's like, "Ah,
Yeah, the
I gotta go in."
nurses
But
probably
it
thought he was nuts going in and out of his office all the time.
but it's not long, like you said, Mark. It was a few minutes,
Right,
and it's transformative. Now,
right.
I'm curious to get your take on meditation in regards to how someone can build up that practice, because you even said it was hard when you first started, and I
Mhm.
get that. I hear people say this all the time, Mark. They say, "Oh, I can't meditate, or it's not for me," and I have my own way of challenging it. But I'm curious as to how you help someone. Let's say they've already made that choice, they've decided, okay, I want to do it. How do you get them to really build a practice from scratch?
That's a great question, and we've already started to address it. First, um, get your body healthy, right? So, when you saw the movie Karate Kid, right? And
Oh yeah.
the kid goes to Miyagi, he wants the secret sauce, right? And Miyagi says, "Go wax the fence," right? Wax on, wax off. That was a metaphor for do the preparation so that you'll be capable of meditating. And it's the same reason, like in the yoga tradition, 8-limbed yoga, Ashtanga. I don't mean the Ashtanga yoga that's in a studio, but the the true meaning of Ashtanga is 8 limbs. Well, the first 2 limbs are like ethical precepts and kind of like do's and don'ts, almost like the 10 commandments. Do these things and don't do these things. So those are kind of like guidelines for living well, which will have great benefit for your development, your evolution. The third is asana. The fourth is pranayama, breath work. The fifth is called pratyahara, which is sensory development. The sixth is concentration. The seventh is meditation. And the eighth is called samadhi, which is union. And they were basically delivered and practiced in that order. So look at that. Meditation was seventh, not first.
Yeah.
And what came way before meditation was physical preparation, and then breath work, and then concentration. So that's the way I teach. First comes physical preparation. While you're getting your body healthy, though, I've got a secret weapon, and that is box breathing. And so box breathing is layering pranayama into asana, which they do, a really good program of asana will have pranayama, will have breath work. So box breathing is, that's the term that I came up with to teach SEALs pranayama, because like I said, if I called it pranayama, they would walk out of the room. So the cool thing about box breathing is this deep diaphragmatic nostril breathing, and you're doing 5 count in, 5 count hold, 5 count out, 5 count hold. That's the goal, right? You may start with a little less, which is 3 breaths per minute. And I'm asking you to practice this every single day prior to your physical training and after, or it's part of your morning routine and sometime later in the day. Ideally, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening. Now, over time, what it does is it rewires your nervous system so that without the holds, you're still breathing nostrily and that 5 count in and 5 count out, which is 6 breaths per minute. And I've been teaching this since 2006. And I just knew that this was a really good and healthy way to breathe because of the effects it had on me and all the students, right? It led to like great calmness as well as alertness and clarity. And it wasn't until 2023 I read a scientific study that said that they studied breath patterns and said, oh yeah, the optimal breathing pattern for health and longevity is 6 breaths per minute through your nose. And we had stumbled upon that.
Wow.
So what that's doing is further enhancing your physiological health and your energy system health, right? Which is the chakra system. And it's for a lot of people, because of the way we live, especially in the West, are stuck in hyperarousal, meaning they're activating their sympathetic fight or flight system all the time, to the point where their parasympathetic nervous system atrophies. It just kind of goes offline.
Mm.
And the state of hyperarousal, is anxious, and you have a lot of compensatory things that can mask it over, like coffee, drugs, alcohol, hardcore workout, etc. And people don't know they're stuck in hyperarousal. So the box breathing practice will reactivate the parasympathetic rest digest function and get your body back into balance and bleed off all that excess stress. Huge benefits right there. And that leads to greater clarity and calmness. And it also has the Trojan horse effect of beginning your mental training, because we ask you to breathe in that pattern and focus discreetly on that box pattern, on the breath. So it becomes an object of concentration. So now you've gone from not just training your arousal control, which is the, balancing that arousal response, sympathetic, parasympathetic, but also you're training attention control, because you're teaching yourself to be attentive to that one thing instead of letting your mind bounce around like that popcorn mind or ping pong ball. And as you develop skill in holding your attention on the box pattern, just following it closely, inhale, hold, exhale, hold, and turning back to that every time you notice that your mind has wandered, then you're developing concentration, actually strengthening your mind, making it more focused and able to penetrate deeply and concentrate longer periods of time, which has great benefits for deep work and projects that require a lot of effort over time.
Yeah. So these are things I think would be of great value to someone like Dino. The box breathing, doing some movement. What I'm curious to hear from you is when someone falls into that pattern. So Dino's falling into it, and so many people I know fall into this pattern of okay, my work is overwhelming. I go through my work day. I fall asleep a little too late, and then I wake up the next day, but I wanted to get up early to work to do some exercise or fitness. I didn't, and then my day starts, and they're just in this cycle, Mark, and they just all of a sudden months go by, and they haven't done any movement. They haven't done any work on themselves. What do you find helps someone to break that pattern, to be able to like have it not be just something that they do once, but they kind of build up that new routine for themselves so it becomes part of who they are now?
Right. Well, stuck in a rut is it's problematic because oftentimes the walls of the rut get so high you can't see over them. It becomes a new
Yeah.
normal, right?
Yeah.
Um, so what I recommend is that, and this is for everybody, not just whether if you don't feel like you're stuck in a rut, but certainly if you are, is to stop digging. And what I mean by that is just slow down, right? Because what you're doing is you're spending a lot of energy doing things that are either unhealthy or counterproductive, and you're masking your discomfort with entertainment, distractions, maybe drugs,
Alcohol.
alcohol, right? Those things,
Yeah.
overeating. And so if you were able to just slow down and just like get to the point where you're like, okay, I got to change, right? This isn't working. Just slow down and breathe. Just you can do that, right? Because people say I don't have time to breathe. Really?
How am I talking to you?
Yeah. If you didn't have time to breathe, you'd be dead. Okay, so you're gonna breathe anyways. What if you just started every morning with 5 minutes of structured box breathing or 10 minutes? Because what are you going to do with that time anyways? You're going to be breathing.
Yeah.
Why not breathe in this super effective, powerful manner that has all these benefits that I just described? Just do that because you're going to breathe anyways. Well, normally I check my email. Don't check your email. Don't check your Twitter X feed or Facebook channel or Instagram channel. Don't turn on the TV. Just stop and breathe. And then do it again tomorrow. And then do it again the next day. That's all. Just start with that one thing. Just do 5 or 10 minutes. If you can afford 20, just do that 20 minutes of box breathing in the morning.
Yeah.
Work up to 20 minutes. That's all you have to commit to. I think the problem is when people get in a rut, it's so overwhelming because they feel like they're falling so far behind or so far into that rut. And, journey 1,000 miles starts with a single step. That single step is just to come back into yourself, come back into your center, to begin to feel alive. And the breath will help you do that. Breath is the link, it's the bridge between the body, the mind, and the spirit. And you will begin to reconnect with yourself and you'll begin to feel healthier because box breathing itself, if all you did was box breathing, like you would lose weight. If you were overweight, you would lose the weight eventually because it's all about balance. Because as your hormones
Yeah.
come into balance, the weight will just kind of go, right?
Yeah. What I think it's also too, Mark, is that people have this expectation of what it's supposed to look like. And if they're not meeting that expectation, it means that they're in this rut. So, in other words, if let's say I'm imagining Dino, like he might be thinking, all right, well, I need to wake up early. I need to make sure that I have a good breakfast and then I do my exercise and then I do some meditation and then I go to work. And then, like, it needs to be this perfect thing. And if I don't nail it, then I'm still in the spiral.
Right.
You just suggested, no, don't think like, just do one thing. Just
Just do one.
start what, yeah, either you're going down or you're going up, right? And
Right.
let's build you back up.
Consider that box breathing to be the first rung. You've stepped
Yeah.
up on the first rung. Now, you don't have to run up the ladder. You want to make sure that let's look at it this way. You're building the rungs as you go up it, right? So that first rung though is since you already breathe, we're just saying, let's breathe a little bit more consciously. and with a different pattern, deep diaphragmatic nostril breathing. It's going to activate the muscles of your stomach and back and chest and diaphragm. Your lungs are going to get healthier. Your heart's going to get healthier. Your brain is going to get healthier. Wow, just stay there for a while. Really solidify that rung. And then what happens is, as your body feels better, you get more energy, and then you're like, maybe I think I will go for a walk this morning. Boom, you're on the second run now. And you go for that
Yeah.
walk and you feel good. And like, you don't have to go 10 miles, just go a mile or two or three. What are you doing? Everyone's different. But just, crawl, walk, run, right? Don't think you're going to get back in the gym and be doing 135-pound snatches and you're going to get all frustrated and you're going to hurt yourself. People try to take on too much and then they get injured, or they don't see the success. And so they lose the motivation to get right back in. So they just have these whipsaw approaches. So because they have unrealistic expectations, then they have expectation hangovers. So
Yeah.
just get back into movement through the breath. And then that movement's going to lead to mood changes. You're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to be more optimistic. You're going to have more energy, and you're less likely to open the refrigerator at midnight or to have that second or third helping or to eat the cake because you just don't feel like it. And you're going to be drinking more water and less alcohol or whatever it is, less coffee. You don't have to cut anything out. You don't have to go extreme. Just let your body and the awareness of the health and the vitality that your body is gaining guide your behavior.
Yeah, and it will gradually happen in the
Absolutely.
time in the time it takes. So you said it earlier. You said these things do take time, and
Right.
if we have the right expectation, then anyone wherever you are, you can get out of any quote unquote rut.
Right.
So, Mark, if you were to have met Dino in this story, let's say Dino learns about the work you're doing, you have an opportunity to have a call with him. He tells you what he's going through, the stress he's under, and the pattern he's in. And you listen and you have an opportunity to ask him a question or two to help him to work through this. What would you ask him, Mark, and why?
How bad do you want it? Right? I have this saying, if you're not training your body mind, the world's training it for you. The results will speak for itself. Um, so Dino, if you want to be whole and you want to feel good and confident and courageous and to have the functional mobility to be able to navigate the world and live with adventure and thriving, in other words, then you're gonna have to work for it,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not free. It's like they're saying freedom is not free. If you want freedom of that health brings you, it's not free. Inertia is the enemy, right? So inertia will lock you into, will trap you, right? And you'll be, your body will become your own prison. Your body and mind will become your own prison because by doing nothing, you're trapping yourself in a body mind that's going to be operating well below its potential and also extraordinarily susceptible to the training and conditioning of our culture, which, as you know, is kind of designed to trap you to be a good little consumer of the
Consumer.
medical profession and the food, fat food industry and pharmacological industry and entertainment industry. They want you right where Dino is.
Yeah.
And so if you're not serious about you thriving and moving away from that stuff, then you won't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
the
a
results will speak for themselves. But so if don't beat yourself up because you chose it. And that's the harsh lesson, right? So choose health. And
yeah.
instead of feeling overwhelmed, just start breathing. Choose health first, and then start breathing. And then start moving. And then start eating and sleeping better. And
Yeah.
then start training the mind deliberately.
Yeah. Don't beat yourself up. You chose it. I wrote that down. That that's so good.
Now,
And
there
all
are circumstances, right, that where someone could say, "That's bullshit, Mark. I had a major accident," or so and
Of
so died,
course.
or
Yeah,
right, I was born in Syria, Syria, or wherever, right? And this is all true, right? There are situations where circumstances really going to get in the way.
absolutely there are. And I do
So,
think, we need to be able to discern that, of course,
right.
right? Which is an actual circumstance and the other one which is no, I'm perpetuating this. I'm putting myself into the situation. And so the question that you proposed, I propose to all of our listeners, how bad do you want it?
Bad human.
And
Are
I
you
think
willing to do the work?
are you willing to do the work? And I think that it's such an important question that all of us need to be asking ourselves regularly, especially when we're feeling that sense of, oh, I'm not up for it today. No, as you said to earlier in this conversation, today's the day. It's
Today is
today.
your day.
Today's your day. I love it, Mark. And for all of our listeners to learn more about the great work Mark is doing, if you want to learn more about Mark himself, it's markdivine.com, markdivine.com. And to learn more about the community and the training programs that Mark is running, it's unbeatablemind.com. We'll put both of those into the show notes.
Awesome.
Mark, this was phenomenal. I am so grateful that you took some time out of your day to chat with me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it very much. Booyah.
One thing I loved about that conversation with Mark was how practical his advice was. He got right to the point of what really holds us back and what it takes to cultivate mental toughness. And I'll do my best to synthesize it into 3 insights, 3 actionable takeaways for you. Here we go. First insight: your mind and body are not separate. If your physical body is being neglected, you are setting yourself up for mental challenges. There's a two-way street there. Stress, anxiety, overwhelm has a lot to do, or comes from, oftentimes, a physical body that is being neglected. So make sure you don't neglect your physical body, that you take care of both the body and the mind together. Second insight: most people are unknowingly stuck in hyperarousal. So that's the sympathetic nervous system, which activates when there's a sense of threat. And what people do is they numb with caffeine, food, or drugs, or whatever, and they never actually release any of that. They never get out of that state, which is really harmful for the mind and body. And the third insight is that leaning into death makes you more alive. In Eastern traditions, the focus on death isn't morbid. It's intended to gain appreciation for life. Avoiding the idea of death mutes the experience of living. So accepting mortality is what helps you to be present and live fully. Actionable takeaways. First of 3, box breathing. Inhale for 5, hold for 5, exhale for 5, hold again for 5. Do that for 10 to 15 minutes before you reach for your phone or you have your breakfast, and it will be a great way to start your day, to get you into the parasympathetic nervous system, where your body is in a rest and recharge state. Second actionable takeaway: build movement into your day in small doses. So often we think we need to spend 2 hours at the gym or something like that. That's just crazy. You don't need to. 5 minutes of movement 5 times a day. That's a full workout at the gym. You could just do it in smaller doses. And that leads me to the third actionable takeaway, which is crawl, walk, run. One rung at a time. Don't try to overhaul everything in your life at once, because then you set yourself up for discouragement as you don't meet this crazy expectation. Start small and then build up from there. Join us on Friday's episode. I'm going to do a deep dive into what I hear from people all the time. People say to me, Jay, you're so disciplined. How do you do that? And it's so funny because I don't think of myself as disciplined. I genuinely don't. I've created systems that work for me. And on Friday, I'm going to tell you my secret. It's not really a secret, honestly. It's quite simple. Anyone can do it. So if you want more consistency If you feel like, your habits fall off, like you start doing something and then you don't follow through, if that's something that you struggle with, then on Friday, I'm going to walk you through how I got out of that, because I was there too, and how I now have established systems that work for me, where I've maintained consistency for years when it comes to the things that give me energy and allow for me to have mental toughness and physical health. So don't miss that episode on Friday. And until next time, thank you so much for listening. I'm rooting for you.